What's up, Leo? Welcome to your Love Quickie. This is going to be a timeless read, so whenever you're inspired to watch this video is when you are supposed to watch this video. And also, it's not going to resonate with all of you guys, okay? So definitely check out your other placements. You might get more information using your moon, rising, or like your Venus sign, okay? Okay, Leo. You know, you know, whoever this message is resonating with, I can't, you know, deny that it feels like you guys are going through a tough time. If you are in a relationship currently and you are facing some tough moments, know that there is possibility for getting things back on track. But there's going to have to be some action that's taken, you know, um, on both your parts. Now, let's just get into it. You guys start out with the Seven of Wands and the Ten of Wands. So you've got all this fire energy, right? Seven of Wands energy brings a type of resistance. It does also talk about standing up for yourself. It does talk about standing your ground. And then when we get the Ten of Wands, we do talk about really taking on too much, more than biting off more than you can chew, taking on more projects than you have time for, taking on more issues than you have, the bandwidth to even deal with. Now, when we see the Seven of Wands in this deck, I do love it because, normally we see a Seven of Wands person by themselves fighting six other people, and it's almost as if they're being ganged up on or jumped. In this, you've got partners coming together that are trying to resist. But I can't help but notice that with this Ten of Wands, it just feels like, this is the best way I could say, it almost feels like there's someone who's trying to be there for you, or even perhaps, of course, this could be swapped. So even you trying to be there for someone trying to be there for you, but it's almost as if someone's like not emotionally available right now, right? In a love reading, these cards can talk about not being emotionally available. Now, when we talk about Seven of Wands in a love reading, this could talk about, a couple taking up an issue together and resisting together, absolutely. But if one of those people is over here carrying all those wands, is that really the case? Maybe that's more of like the formula in order to get it on a better track, but it just feels like there's an imbalance in terms of the relationship. And for someone, whether it's you or the other person, it does feel like someone doesn't feel emotionally available to the other person, right? That's how they perceive it. So it could be your partner perceiving you as not being emotionally available to be in the fight with and to really talk about these issues with. So they're taking it all on themselves. Or this could be you doing that, right? Take it as it resonates. What I do know is in the past, Six of Pentacles was here. In a love reading, this is really beautiful energy because this is about things being mutual in a relationship. This is about you guys working through things together. This is about beautiful, perfect balance. But somewhere along the way, things have gotten a little complex, and it feels like someone is kind of internalizing and taking on everything themselves and not necessarily allowing the partner to be there for them, right? I will say some of you guys could even be in a relationship where one of you is more controlling in terms of how they run the house, how, what the kids eat, what the kids do, how you run the house, whatever it is, because that's also popping up here too. It feels like there's an imbalance in the house, how things are ran, emotions in terms of being considered for things. I mean, it could be any one of these things, but those are the strongest themes that I'm getting from this read when I'm getting it, okay? Now, in the near future, you've got the Four of Swords. This is about isolation, and this does a lot of times talk about a separation in a relationship. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be divorce. I will say you also got the separation oracle card. So even in terms of taking a moment and just chilling. If you've got girlfriends, you want to take a weekend with them, or you want to, if you need to take a day even to go, have a pamper day or something like that. There is this sense that there needs to be time alone, a little bit of isolation in order to find healing. Now, again, you don't have to be alone by yourself, but it feels like there needs to be a little bit of some breather room in this relationship because things are really overwhelming. Now, it's interesting because Four of Swords follows the Three of Swords, which has a lot to do with like arguments, heartbreak, maybe things coming out, things being exposed, hurt feelings, basically. And so if you guys are at this place in your relationship where there's a lot of back and forth right now going on, it would be wise if you guys just kind of give yourself a break rather than trying to hammer your point, right? And I do see that coming for you guys. Now, again, this can be break up. This can be just, I need a moment. I need a week. I need a break. Shit, you need a moment. You need to get out of here. You need a breathe. You need a breather. You need a break. These are all things to consider depending on what your situation is. Now, this is interesting because this is actually in the placement of what to avoid, or like our cop-out area, our cop-out card. Now, Ten of Cups, naturally, anybody reading this is like, why the hell would I ever want to avoid Ten of Cups? I don't think it's avoid happiness and avoid your all that, but especially for those of you guys who, again, because it feels like there could be some type of control, maybe that's going on, or just lack of consideration of how people feel in terms of your family dynamics, in terms of how you run your kids, in terms of maybe even how you handle the in-laws, these types of things. I just want you to consider taking a break from all of that and trying to maintain this because of your sense of duty to family and really figure out what you need to do for you. This is kind of like the same as being like, like, especially Herbalifers, but, a lot of people will be like, yo, what's your why for doing this? And they like, I say Herbalife because Herbalife for a while had like a campaign on what their why was of why they were selling their little fucking shakes or whatever. Point is, most people, when you ask them their why, they'll say their family, they'll say their kids, they'll say, something along their lines or along those lines. And while that's all great and good, and while those should absolutely be your whys, your first why has to be you. Your first why before anybody else, it has to be you, because that's what's going to help you stick to whatever the thing is, right? Like, if your heart's not in something, if you're not in a good place with something, it's really hard, although it's possible, it's hard to be like, oh, but this isn't about me. I'm doing it solely for them or her or him or whatever. It's hard to keep that going consistently, right? If you aren't your why first. So of course, don't neglect your family, don't be happy, but also, are you giving yourself the adequate time? Do you give yourself a moment each day just for you, to honor you? Do you need a break, girl? Like, do you need a break? Right? Without the kids, without the husband, without the wife, without, the partner. These are all things to consider. And maybe it's a matter of you and your partner just needing a little bit of breathing room. That way you can actually come to some better conclusions of how to handle your relationship going forward. But I will say, it does feel like there may be some things that need to be addressed in terms of family dynamics and how that plays a role into your relationship. Again, whether that has to deal with, who you let in your relationship in terms of your in-laws or whatever, or how you guys decide to raise your kids and work your family. These are all things that could be coming up for you right now. Now, what to be aiming for is Queen of Wands, which I love. This is your energy, right? Queen of Wands, she's beautiful and she's fun. She's spontaneous. She's passionate. She's sexual. She's fiery. You know what I mean? And for some of you, with being overwhelmed with all the things in your relationship and possibly work and life, it's kind of taken some of your sparkle away. So the focus is to get the sparkle back, right? What little things do you do that can instantly boost your mood? Even if you can't take a staycation, even if you can't get away for the weekend, what little things, you have to have little things in your life that you know can kind of bring the vibe back up if you're feeling down. I know if I turn on music, that's instantly a vibe, right? Music that I like that I'm going to want to dance to, I instantly start to feel good. I know if I go for a walk in nature, I instantly start to feel good. What are those things that bring you back to you? Because again, within the stress of life and maybe some things in your relationship and really feeling like there's an imbalance. Again, it feels like one person has way more control in this dynamic than the other, and it doesn't feel like it's working, right? So what do you do when you're feeling overwhelmed in that way? What instantly helps you feel better? Those are things that you're going to want to do at this time, at this month, okay? Now, advice on moving forward, you've got the Queen of Pentacles and the Eight of Wands. If you are, again, overwhelmed, this is a good time to get away. Eight of Wands does talk about travel, but it does talk about communication. It talks about forward movement and things happening fast. So, to me, the Queen of Pentacles, she's like the most mommy-ish of the queens, outside of like the Queen of the Cups. But I feel like Queen of Pentacles because like she's super grounded. She could do everything. She fixes everything. She, cooks everything. She plants everything. She makes money too. Like she wears all these different hats, right? And for you guys, in terms of wearing all the hats, be sure if there's a lot going on that you're prioritizing what needs to be done absolutely now and what can be held off or what can wait or what can, whatever. I do feel like there's going to be forward movement happening, but I also do feel like you guys need a bit of a break. It's almost like you need this break so you can, recalibrate yourself so that you can go back into this relationship and be all the things that you are in the relationship, right? I see you guys as someone who brings this type of energy, even though this is Pentacles. It's like, go back to this. You're dynamic, you're beautiful, you're fine, you're handsome, whatever you are, you're fun, you're spontaneous, but you're also a great provider. You also have value. You also, know what's important to this household and this relationship. You also bring something to it. And things can start moving, but I think that you guys really need to take a break and find things outside of your relationship, outside of your family that make you happy, right? Now, I kind of hate to see this in your most likely outcome just because it doesn't feel like for many of you, even though we're having this talk and even though you might find yourself in this situation, it doesn't feel like there's going to be much movement. Now, the Hangman is a state of surrender, right? This is kind of telling you like, girl, y'all, look, you're here and this is where you are and you have to just surrender to this. There's nothing that you can physically do, when you get to the point of the Hangman to really change what it is except for just kind of wait it out, And it feels like you guys kind of get to that point of like putting things off because you don't want it to be uncomfortable, putting things off because you don't want to have weird conversations, you don't want to upset anybody, you don't want to be upset. But then that still leaves you in this place to deal with the things that are upsetting and the things that are toxic to you emotionally, and maybe even physically. The devil talks about the toxicity, right? Talks about our vices, talks about what has a power over us, what has us in a chokehold, right? So if you ignore it, if you ignore how you feel, then you basically put yourself in a position where later you kind of take away your choice. You kind of take away your options. I do think that this is fixable. Because even with these, like I see that there's a real beautiful something here, right? There was a good foundation. It was very balanced. And either through life, through work, through whatever circumstances or house things are a little wobbly now. You're not alone, but it's important that you spend some time alone, at least to be able to reflect a little bit, to be able to think a little bit about what it is that you really, really want for yourself. For some of you guys, this separation is bigger than just, oh, I'm leaving for the weekend. Maybe this is a separation for real. Maybe you're in a relationship where it's ran its course. And so there's the stress about, what do we do now with the kids? What do we do now with the family, this family that we built? But then it's also saying, if that is the case, you can't sacrifice yourself, right, to save the family, because that doesn't really save the family. If you're not happy and if you're not in a good place, if you aren't your wife first, then nothing happens the way you want it to happen. And kids know when they're dealing with and seeing a toxic situation or relationship that's not working, and that actually has a harder effect on them in the long run than just deciding to be amicable and co-parents, if that's what you need to do. Now, of course, that's all the way going extreme, but for some of you guys, that might be exactly where you are. It might be something that you need to cut off, because you know through all this, it's just not going to work. You might just be in two different places. You might have grown into two different people. And maybe now this person that you once loved and had so much balance with, maybe now they bring out the worst in you, right? That could be possible. I also see this as, the devil's super sexual energy. So some of you guys might just, it feels like it's easier to just mask it and feel like you can fix it through sex. Kind of like the fucking and fighting. I mean, if you want, girl, but I just don't feel like that really addresses the issue, the deeper issue that you guys are going through. So give yourself this time to really just sit by yourself, see how you feel. I think if you get to this point of Four of Swords where you give yourself grace to take the vacation or just take a day away from everybody, you will find some much needed answers. Okay? And then from there, you'll know what to do. But some of you guys are losing your sparkle. So it's important to get back to that Queen of Wands energy. Some of you guys are feeling like you're failures in your relationship and in your home life. You're not. You just lost your sparkle. It just needs a little bit of a recharge. And you'll get that if you give it to yourself. Now, back to the separation card. Time apart from your partner's on the horizon. Again, this could be temporary. This could be a for real breakup. This could be, hey, I'm going, to Santa Cruz for the weekend with my homegirls. This could be, hey, I need a day at the spa. Probably not, but it could be. But there is some type of separation that's needed in order to see the full picture. Sometimes when we back up from a situation, we can see it more clearly and we're not all up in it. So regardless whether you decide to stay in this relationship, separating gives you space enough to see things that maybe you couldn't see when you're all up in it, okay? So I love you guys and I hope that this was helpful, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, Leo.